Hi, I'm Bob Hagan, and welcome to The Bob Hagan Show, brought to you by It's Relevant. The goal of our show is to introduce you to the unsung heroes, movers and shakers, and key influencers in and around the various towns of Fairfield County. Enjoy the show. Today on the show, I have the founders of Trek Medic International, Jason Friesen and Mike Samuels. Gentlemen, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
So let's get right into it. What is Trek Medics International? How did it come to play, Jason?
So Trek Medics International is a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to improving emergency medical systems in low-income countries. So basically what that means is if we were to go out into the street now and we were to see a car accident, everybody would know what to do. They would call 911. However, if you go into developing countries, if you were to see the same kind of car accident or a woman go into childbirth, they don't really have very many options. It usually comes down to calling a relative or a friend or more commonly flagging down a passing motorist. So we go into countries and we work on four things. We work on training, which is to train local bystanders to be first responders. We work on communications, which is a dispatching technology we've developed. We work on transportation, and then we work on management and governance so that they can keep these systems running and that they're reliable.
You have an expertise in the back. Why don't you explain your background and how this all came to be? Because it's fascinating.
So I'm a paramedic by training.
Okay.
I spent 4.5 years living in San Diego where I worked on the border, the San Diego border. And while I was there, I wanted to get involved in Tijuana and start volunteering down there. So I went to the Red Cross in Tijuana. I asked them if I could start riding along. And after, a few times of riding along with them, I began to look for ways to help them because I saw that they lacked supplies, they lacked the manpower to do the jobs, they lacked the vehicles, and I started soliciting EMS agencies. And my employer at the time, American Medical Response in San Diego, gave me about 25 EKG monitors. So I took those and I went down to Tijuana, I gave some of them to them, and I had also been in contact with other EMS agencies throughout Baja California. And so I was able to disperse these to a lot of different EMS agencies that needed them. And then after that, it started to grow. I started doing a training program with another person who helps with Trek Medics now. We went to Ecuador, did training for firefighters and first responders there. And then I just started getting more phone calls, and it's pretty much taken off from there.
You both have roots in Fairfield County. Why don't you tell us about that?
So I'm a Greenwich High School graduate, class of '98. I also did my EMT basic at the Stanford EMS Institute. And fortunately, I've been able to keep in touch with a lot of good friends from high school, and many of them have continued to volunteer with us and to help out in ways that they can. Our web designers from Greenwich High School, the person who's doing all of our artwork for our fundraising campaign is from Greenwich High School, and also through family friends, I was able to get in touch with Mike.
Yeah, I live and work locally in technology, and I've always had kind of a humanitarian outlook. And meeting up with Jason and being able to identify and use my technology background has been incredibly fun and a great experience so far.
Mike, talk to me. I know that you're putting in the technology piece. To explain the technology overall.
So the challenge was using a basic phone like this. That it's not an iPhone, not an Android phone, or basically just using SMS or text messages to be able to identify where the first responders are and getting to those emergency conditions. So we've developed this technology that allows us to be able to install this in local hospitals that have a certain catchment area to be able to serve the emergency needs of these civilians.
It's technology that is, kind of N minus, I would say, to be accurate. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. So it's been challenging because everyone has a phone like this, but they don't have GPS, they don't have the ability to identify where their location is. So the technology we've developed allows us to be able to send a text message to a number similar to 911 and be able to identify what the first responders are that are closest to be able to serve and help them.
So if I hear you correctly, there's no GPS, but walk me through this. How do they locate where they need to go?
You don't have street names. You don't have there's no grid or really identifying markers. So someone's going to be down by a rock, down by the river, something that we can't really relate to. And Jason could probably give some better perspective on location or how to describe your current location.
Yeah, I think that they don't have street names and numbers like we do.
Right.
They don't have house numbers and building numbers. And even if they did, oftentimes the maps don't even exist or aren't accurate. I'll give you an example. When I was living in Central America, my address was 150 meters north of the Santa Lucia Community Center. And if I told a taxi cab driver 150 meters north of the community center, he knew exactly what it was. So much so that some of the taxi cab drivers would fight with me and say, actually, no, it's 200 meters south of the Santa Lucia soccer field.
Right.
But my point is this, while they don't have, the distinguishing addresses and locations like we do, they do have locations that they all recognize and are familiar with. So we really rely on them to provide the information about where they are, and they're all very well aware of where to go.
How did you target these countries? What countries are you in right now?
So right now, our pilot program that we're working on is in Haiti, and that's a continuation of another program I was involved in with another organization since after the earthquake. So we're working in Haiti, in the southern coast of Haiti, with a group of first responders, volunteers, young men and women between the ages of 15 and 25 years old, who don't really have very many employment opportunities. They're very much involved with this first responder program. We've been training them. We've got them some motorcycle ambulances. These are 250cc dirt bikes with a little sidecar gurney. Perfectly appropriate for rural communities as opposed to the conventional ambulances that we use. Big boxes, those very fragile, usually fall apart.
Gotcha.
So we've been working with them on training, we've been working with them on transportation, and in June we finally started field testing outside the United States with our software. And we were able to go down there for about a week and to work with them in terms of testing the software to see if the software worked as we wanted, but also to make sure that they could use the software and that they could interact with it. Our expectations of how a mobile phone technology would work are very likely different from what they would expect. And so that was really a good opportunity for us to go down there and make sure that what we had been doing was actually appropriate and compatible to their culture and their lifestyle.
So Jason, Mike, what are the technologies that are lacking in these countries?
So that's a good question. If you think about what we do here in the United States, something happens, you take out a phone, you call 911, you're connected to a dispatcher, they find the nearest ambulance and send it directly to you. That's not possible in many developing countries for a host of reasons, not least of all, they don't have the ambulance, they don't have the infrastructure for roads, they don't have maps, they don't have dispatchers. But what they do have is they have vehicles, they have cell phones, and they have people who are willing to help. The emergence of cell phone technology and mobile phones in the developing world is actually quite rampant. Some people estimate that it's up to 80% mobile phone penetration, meaning that 80% of the world's population has access to mobile phones.
That's very interesting.
So what we do is when something happens, when somebody needs a medical assistance, they can send a text message with their location to a very simple number like 911. That text message goes to our server, and then our server relays it to all of the first responders in the community who are available. And it shows up on their phones saying there's an incident at such and such location. Therefore, whoever's closest can determine themselves whether or not they'll respond. So we're pretty much crowdsourcing emergency response. The people that are getting these text messages are people who would most likely be responding to these incidents to begin with. That includes taxi cab drivers, commercial transport vehicle drivers, the young able-bodied youth who are likely unemployed but have motorcycles and can respond. And then it's also like local organizations, community-based organizations, including a lot of times they have what they call the civil defense. Or if the Red Cross is around, we always incorporate them. We can work with hospitals, we can work with churches, we can work with any type of community organization that has people who are willing to get involved.
So what's next?
So right now we're in the middle of our crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo.com, and our goal here is to raise $55,000 to improve the performance of the software and to expand our testing locations. And we're offering some really cool incentives actually for your donations, kind of like Girl Scout cookies, but we think a little bit better.
Sure.
So we're offering T-shirts, a couple ties with original designs that are completely, Trek Medics designs and relate to our mission. We're developing a mobile phone technology, but it's not really an app. It's more like a public utility. It's 911. So this $55,000 that we're looking for is going to help us to get the baseline technology where it needs to be so that it can be deployed in very low income settings. However, once we hit the $55,000, our program is not finished, and we're going to be continuing to looking for more funding as the technology continues to improve and as the availability of other technologies like GPS and 3G become available in a lot of these low-income countries. So we've definitely got our work cut out for us, but in the short term, we're at a place where if we can, with the $55,000, we'll be able to have a software that we can deploy in a low-income setting and that we can also share with other nonprofit organizations who are involved in the same type of work.
Yeah, increasing the scalability and also in translating it and having a multilingual data set is going to improve our reliability substantially.
Wonderful. Jason and Mike, I want to thank you both for being on the show. Again, Jason and Mike are the founders of Trek Medics International. It sounds like you guys have an unbelievable organization going, and you're doing great work for the world, quite frankly. So thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.